Beautiful angle.
Planning, standing, all the time is spanning, waiting for the show to grow. Writing, fighting, all the new inviting, waiting for the show. Soon we'll see. All the hard work's come to the peak. Have a seat. Now let's meet. This is Sirius AI, and we are seriously caffeinated.
All right. 5, 6, 7, 8. Who do we appreciate? Sirius. Yeah. You know what? Let's just use that for the intro. Welcome back to another episode of Seriously Caffeinated. My name is Sean. Who's the other guy?
I'm John, and I'm really caffeinated today. I'm
Please
drinking.
never, but also always do that again.
I am drinking tea today. This is a brand called Numi. It is a matcha toasted rice. It's nutty and savory, smooth green tea with medium caffeine in it. I forget. You know, I was at the grocery store and I saw 2 boxes of these for half off, so I bought them.
Oh, that's great, John. I am drinking Betco, your premier disinfectant in a little spray bottle. You know, sometimes after a long day of, drinking coffee and eating bone broth soup at the office, I just get so bacterialized in my mouth, and I don't like Betco to wash down, your old troubles in your mouth. That's what I'm drinking today.
What does JD give Heather Chandler and Heather's? Does he gives her a drain cleaner or something like that?
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, I don't know if they say a brand, but Heather's the musical based on the 1989 screenplay. Premiered on Broadway in 2014, give or take. Yeah. For those who don't.
Heather. Oh, well, okay. I guess we're talking about Heather's. Heather's is a really fun show. You feel dirty watching it. You feel dirty like being in it. You feel dirty. It's a very dirty show, and I like it. So,
if a piece of theater is dirty and you feel dirty watching it, should it be considered art? That is the question of today's podcast. Not specific to that Heather's example. We're here to talk about art. We're here to talk about what it means, why it exists, the value it creates, all sorts of fun stuff. And if you're not familiar with the format of how we do things here at Seriously Caffeinated, we set a 8-minute timer and we just go. We just let the thoughts flow. But before we get into that, well, let's talk a little bit about why art matters to the series of Sirius AI. John, why are we even talking about art? What does that have to do with a robot?
So, I remember, I think it must have been senior year of high school. I had a media and communications teacher, Mr. McMahon. And it wasn't really a philosophy class, but it was definitely a philosophy class. Anyway, that was the first time I ever really started thinking about art and what it means. And so over the years, I've just been really focused on this whole idea of art and what is it. I mean, we're able to identify. We know where art museums are. We know you can say that music is a piece of art. Art, there's so much to unpack with that word philosophically. Are there standards? Are there is there such thing as can art be inappropriate? And does that make it not art? Can it be offensive? There's so many, I feel like everyone has a different definition of exactly what art is, which is why it is such an awesome conversation to talk about. So that's a little bit about art, and I don't want to go too much into how I integrate it into the series per se.
You're not going to talk about the premier song in all of Sirius AI?
Oh, okay. Well, I can talk about that. Okay, so I've come to this conclusion that art is not a thing that it's not just a thing. It's not just something that you create. Like, I don't actually believe that art is the object of the conversation whenever it's brought up. I'll tell you this much about my thoughts on it. And I've come to the conclusion that art is actually a mindset. Like, the object is an art. You are looking at it with an artistic lens, and I think that developing that artistic lens is what makes art possible. So, like, these are all philosophical podcasts, so feel free to like argue with us, and we'll like argue back and stuff. It'll be a good time. But having art as this defining feature of what makes us human, and that is why it is such a big part of this story, because a big part of Sirius and Hope's journey is to discover what it means to be human. And so there is a song that Sean referenced to, called "Make Art to Me," and this is an old song. It was one of the first songs that we ever got written for the show, and the entire premise is that Sirius is trying to convince Hope, this artificial intelligence, who accepts that she's an artificial intelligence, to make art with him. What does that mean? I don't know. Maybe it's singing, maybe it's dancing, maybe it's just talking. Like, Sirius sees everything as art, and just everything like nature is art.
Street hockey as art. Would he?
Oh, absolutely. He would be enthralled with it. He, like, any little thing or any big thing, like, there is no difference when Hope like rips a door off its hinges, throws it at a building. He's just as enthralled with that like happening as he is with, I don't know, like a jar of marbles. Like, his level of enthusiasm is equally as high. And so I would argue that whereas Hope finds it difficult to create art, Sirius lives it. Like, it is not something that he has to try and make something. He just lives his life, or lack thereof. Artificial intelligence debate last week. Check it out, or whenever it was. It wasn't last week.
Prior episode 2, I think.
Yeah, that was episode 2.
We'll drop the link
in
the comments. Or actually, You know what? You should watch the rest of this episode. But you can rewind to this timestamp, and you can click the link here for episode 2, artificial intelligence. Ooh.
Our video.
All right.
We like to present a challenge for our video editor, because we're a bunch of pranksters here.
Guys. Anyway, you ready to start that timer? You ready to start getting speed philosophical? I'll pull it up.
Yeah. Well, is there anything you want to add? Because I feel like I just talked forever.
Yeah. So, street hockey. I first heard about it in Rocket Power. You remember Rocket Power? Growing up in New England,
Woogity.
I thought you were trying to do like, oh no, stop talking about Rocket Power. But that was like my first experience of like observing how the West Coast lives, and through art you can convey cross-cultural differences in the contiguous United States, and I just appreciate that for a moment. But enough of this pontificating. I want to get to some quasi-debating, quasi-us yelling at each other, because that's what the people want, man. So I'm about to click the timer in a few seconds, and we're going to talk about what is art, unless you're trying to get in there. I see you raising your hand.
Yeah. Just, are we sure it was, I didn't check. Was it 7 minutes or 8 minutes?
Today it's 8.
All right, today it's 8. I love it. Roll with it. Okay.
All right, and we are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, timer, go. All right,
Sean. So
you're done. You talked for like 2 minutes. All right. So what you said about art being in your mind, I mean, that's some hippie garbage, man. Art can easily fit into several categories which have been thought of by men smarter than us many years ago. I'm going to break it down for you, 4 categories right quick that you can put art in. Right? Imitationalism. Art is good when it imitates reality, number 1. Formalism. Art is good when it masters artistic elements and principles, number 2. Instrumentalism. Art is when it communicates a message, number 3. Number 4, emotionalism. Art is good when it evokes an emotional response. 4th category. So when you think of those, it's a lot easier for me to say, is this tapping in one of those 4 categories? Is this good quality art? Does it evoke one of those in particular? To me, I like to put things into boxes. And so that's how I can judge things, whether or not it's good art. Quick example, I'll kick it back to you. Take a look at this painting here. If I can get the angle right. I mean, this does nothing for me. Maybe it imitates life. Maybe it imitates, it's that imitationalism stuff. But I just, I've seen trees that look a little bit more realistic. So therefore, it's not good art. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Well, what say you?
So it sounds like you are quite clearly saying that there is a standard for what makes something art. As if there is an authority of people out there who are saying, oh, no, this is art, and everyone seems to have to agree with it because that's what they say. So, I mean, would you agree with my summarization that you believe there are standards of what makes something art because you looked it up on your phone and it gave you those 4 options of what makes something art?
First of all, I looked it up in the Encyclopedia Britannica in my local library. Having fun isn't hard if you've got a library card. Number 2, I think that when it comes to...
That was Arthur.
Yeah, it is Arthur. When it comes to assessing things in life, it's best if we have standards to judge them by, right? Now, it doesn't mean that everybody has one standard. I only listed 4 standards of art. But I think that in the grand scheme of things, if we're going to try and define what is art and what is not art, it's much easier to have that conversation and easier to, I guess, extrapolate a greater meaning and a greater conclusion than just saying, art is anything, man. Because how fun would the Olympics be if someone did a triple backflip and then some other guy just kicked a rock and you're like, well, athletics are anything, man. So let's just give them both gold medals, whatever, man.
Okay,
I think
yes.
life is better that way. That's my conclusion.
Okay, I can agree with you that there are better quality forms of art attract bigger people, or not bigger people, but more people. If you look at street performers in the street, the person who's doing this crazy tap dance number with backflips and stuff is going to draw a much larger audience than someone who is, I don't know, just a random card trick or something like that. I think I agree with you that there is different qualities of art, but I agree that those are quite valid. And I mean, humans have gone through our entire history trying to figure we've identified high art and low art, and what the high art is typically what wealthy people throughout history have gone and enjoyed, whereas low art is more for common folk and everything like that. I mean, that's something that I feel like I went to school for English, so we were always talking about different kinds of art and everything like that back then, and the lens that you choose to look at it through. Anyway, I can agree with you that there are different standards and that there are different people who agree. There are more people who agree that something is of high quality art, and then there's a lot of people if you have a kid who makes the macaroni picture, that's not people aren't going to put that in an art museum, but to the parent it is one of the coolest things they've ever seen. So I agree with you that there are different levels. However, in the pursuit of understanding what the definition of art is, would you say that the macaroni drawing is not art?
I think that if I wanted to create my own definition, right, like some of these bigwigs who thought of formalism and such, I would probably say that art has to be either intentionally created with a quality art. Let me just put it that. Art that is of value needs to be created with a high level of intentionality, or can evoke a strong emotional response in people, and it was intentionally created to do so. So I guess my definitions of what art is match up mostly with the imitationalism and emotionalism, right? Like I think good art is either intentionally created to reflect reality, and it's like, wow, like I see that blue jay in that painting. Or like I'm a big like, Jackson Pollock fan, amateur big fan. I couldn't really tell you anything about his work, but I like that whole modern art like splotchy thing because it gets me to stop, gets me to look, and I'm like, huh, really think some deep thoughts right now. Like it's drawing me in, right? So, other things could probably fall into the definition of low art if they have that intentionality behind emotional response or reflecting your world, but it doesn't mean they're good, right? And I guess I'm more concerned with like defining what is good than defining, oh, anything is art, because that just opens a whole can of moral relative worms that I'm not interested in
Are you do you think that art needs to be appropriate for it to be considered art?
Well, that falls under who defines what is appropriate, right? And everything is cultural, right? What is appropriate in New York City, what is appropriate in California may not be appropriate in Idaho, right? Except a lot of Californians are moving to Idaho, so bad example. I don't want to throw out the stereotypical like what's appropriate in the Western world may not be appropriate in the Eastern world, right? So it depends. I think that if people have a negative emotional reaction to it, then you could make the case. It's like, why is this up if everyone's getting pissed off about it? I won't be too vulgar because I know we've got a widespread audience, but there have been some depictions of the Virgin Mary in less than ideal circumstances. People are like, this is art. And some people are just like, hey man, this makes me feel really bad. Like, why is this up and being lauded and approved by society? That makes me, it doesn't make me feel good, And so, I just think it depends on where you're at, and it should respond to the demographics of the people where you're at.
So I find it interesting that you're an animated series producer and you're talking about the marketability of art.
I find it interesting that you too are an animated series producer and are talking about the marketability of art. Is this the first time we're agreeing on something?
I mean, definitely over the course of working on Sirius, sometimes I forget. It's about art, so sometimes I forget that it's like art. Like, it quite literally is like this giant piece of art. I am serious. Oh, I've thought about that before. You don't get to know about the depths of my mind and the characters and their relationships in my mind yet.
Unless you become a patron at $100 a month.
Oh yeah.
After the stopwatch.
Yeah, if you're giving $20 a month, I'll show up at your house and do it with like a tutu on too.
So John, final thoughts. What makes quality art?
Quality art is
20 seconds.
Quality art is when it's coming from it's the interpreter. It's the interpreter. However, I do agree that there are better qualities of art.
10 seconds, Mr. Marsh. Yeah, I think it depends on where you're at and who you're presenting to, and it's defined by your audience. So I guess we kind of agree at the end. And scene 9:15. Very good.
I absolutely detest that because I want to talk about more.
Ooh,
like wow. I feel like there's like I feel like I took such a. It's weird when you're debating because like especially in a time debate, you really have to like zone in on what is your focus. Like what do you like? I mean, I'll be honest. It sounded like you did some research. I just wung that right then, and I'm so frustrated with myself that I took that like I feel like I could have talked about so many different things about art and like what it is. Anyway, it's just when you debate and you just had to you had to choose your thing and you had to dedicate all the free time you have or the time you have to talk about that. Anyway, that's me.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, like you said, you go with the flow. I have my structures, right? It's just it's the whole yin yang that gets this show produced. That's my take, and a little Becto didn't help. I am not receiving any commissions or ad buys from Becto in it's Betco disinfectant. I do not consider eating disinfectant a form of art. I think that's important. John, what did we learn today?
We learned about art and what it means and who it means things to.
I'd agree. And we also learned that if you want some more, you know, tasty content like this, do you want the raw, unfiltered debates that maybe even go past 9 minutes and 15 seconds? You know, if you support our Patreon, if you become a patron and support our Patreon, if you are a supporting patron, you just might get access to that content. You can join for as little as $2 a month. You can join our mug club. You can do so at patreon.com/Sirius AI. That's serious like the knowledge word, not too serious. I'm not frozen. I was just thinking if you think I was frozen. John, anything else to add?
Today was my first day of school and I met my students and stuff. So that was pretty fun.
Oh, that's great. I always forget that you're molding the minds of the young.
Yeah. 3rd and 4th grade.
Yeah. I'm just
Anyway.
a humble fruit basket salesman. I don't get to, you know, enjoy the shaping of the world like you know, but maybe someday, you know, maybe someday.
Well, you know, like when I'm around adults, I want to hang around my students. When I'm around my students, I kind of want to hang out with adults. So it's just a vicious cycle.
Like we
Everyone's
said,
cool.
yin yang. Maybe we'll do a little talk about yin yang on the next one, which is, if you had to pick, if you had to choose, I could advocate for yin, you could advocate for yang. I don't know. We'll see. But it has been great. Thank you so much for tuning in for our concept of the day.
Concept. Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, we did too.
Yep.
Don't worry. We'll put it in the title.
If you want us to do more of a topic like art or AI, you should like comment something and let us know, and then we'll continue talking further about these topics.
It'll be great. We'll have a ton of fun. It'll be great. So coming at you from Texas and coming at you from Massachusetts, it's been great, and we will see you next time on Sirius AI, Seriously Caffeinated.
Long, long ago, there lived these joyous, creative creatures called humans, or people. Little bundles of biomatter that inhabited the Earth.
Earth, the third planet from the sun.